Welcome to the Verdin Verdict Sports Show. I'm your host, Jacob Verdin. Got my guy G Sports in the cut with me on a Friday, right before week 0. G, what's up, man? How you feeling? College football's finally here, bro.
Right around the corner, man. I'm going to be pulling up to the Nickel State and Incarnate Word game tomorrow at 12:30. Hopefully the sun don't tempt me alive, but I looked at the weather. It says it's supposed to be 86 degrees. So
Hey,
uh,
ain't too
ho-
bad.
hopefully I won't get any sunburn.
It could be worse, bro. In Baton Rouge right now, it's absolutely pissing. I would be worried about it raining. But got a lot of week 0 games, got a lot of intel, a lot of information. Brian Kelly did his first radio show of the season, G, yesterday, live from TJ Ribs. Gave the fans some intel. Roster valuation prices, thoughts on the SEC expanding the conference schedule. Obviously, Austin Thomas spoke to the media since we've been live. We'll break down some of the coverage from there as well. Talk about the SEC adding the ninth game. Then at the end of the show, stick around. Top 3 games of the week is back. Your gambling segment. Get to throw some money down. Hopefully make some money. Hopefully not get caught by the books. I got you some interesting locks here today. Let's start it off. Austin Thomas, the man himself, LSU's general manager in a way for their football side of things. Everybody's talking about things getting professional. It's like the NFL. Well, gee, if it's like the NFL, you need a front office. And Austin Thomas is about as good of a GM as you can have in college football. Has all kind of experience, whether it be USC, Baylor, Tennessee, Ole Miss, A&M. I mean, I'm going to lose breath just talking about all the different stops he's made along the way. But the most important one in my eyes is he's had experience on this staff before. He was, I think it was under Coach Armstrong. He was the GM for LSU. So, I mean, he's been here. He knows the culture. He knows what it's like when LSU's winning and at the top of their game. And he's really one of the most important pieces, I think, for them making this switch to the NIL rev share era. Did you get to, catch a little piece of this interview, and what were your thoughts on what he had to say?
Yeah, I definitely was able to catch up and watch the entire interview and what he had to say to the media and basically just putting everybody on game about what his responsibilities are and everything that he should be, or not what he should be, what the fans should expect going forward with this NIL and the salary cap. And I thought he broke it down pretty good, but to put into perspective what his duties are and how much responsibility he does have when you talk about building a roster, making sure these kids get paid the right way or not overpaying, scouting players that might be at in your conference or out of conference at a group of 5 school. There's a lot of different things that goes into his role, and people need to understand it's not just on Austin Thomas. He has to delegate a lot of that to other people in the building in that recruiting department that's gonna play a vital role into this. But I think Austin is the head honcho. I'm gonna say I think he is the head honcho in charge. He will be the final decision maker when they decide if they're going to bring a player in or not. I would love to see Brian Kelly be a little more involved when they're talking about who they bringing in from the portal and scouting players. Now, of course, he's the head coach, so I don't expect him to do this on a daily basis. But when you start talking about certain positions, like the quarterback position,
Yep.
preferably, I
You got
think
to do
Brian
this.
Kelly, yeah, I think Brian Kelly needs to be heavily involved when you even start thinking about, do we want to reach out to this player when he gets in the portal? Like Brian Kelly shouldn't be inserted into this conversation or inserted into what's going on. And like when y'all decide y'all bring them on a visit, I think that's entirely too late. Uh, when you talk about the receiver position, when you talk about O line, I think those 3 positions, in my mind, he should be very involved in. If you're going to go after a kid in the portal, high school, I think you could kind of let that. He doesn't have to be as involved in the high school recruiting because if you're looking at a kid that's in his sophomore year or his junior year, Brian Kelly has time to see him at camp and things of that nature. So he doesn't need to be involved too much in the recruiting. If they want to offer somebody, I don't think Brian Kelly should have to be inserted into, hey, Coach Kelly, we want to offer this kid out of Miami, Florida, or you want to watch the film and sign off on it. I don't think he needs to be involved in that capacity. But we talk about the portal, the offensive line, the receiver position, and the quarterback, especially, I think Brian Kelly should be heavily involved in the decision making, and he should be uh they should make sure he's involved all throughout the process. It shouldn't be like I just alluded to. It shouldn't be when they get him on an official visit for Brian Kelly to start kind of being involved and kind of getting to know the kid and start watching his film, because that's where you'll fall short at when you start talking about getting certain kids in the portal. So I'm glad Austin Thomas came out and let everybody know what to expect and what his role gonna be, and what's the expectations at LSU as far as salary cap wise and NIL. And I think Austin's gonna do a good job. I think having the right type of people in the building alongside him to help him make sure they put a good product on the field year in and year out is going to help him. Like the pickup they got from Ohio State. His last name start with a B.
Sam. His first name's
Yeah,
Sam, right?
yeah. He used to be
And
at
they just won the
Southeastern.
Natty.
Yeah, he used to be at Southeastern University. When I was at Southeastern University, he was there. I want to say he coached on the defense or something like that. But he is somebody that's going to play a vital role into this whole process with Austin Thomas. So
I agree.
J.R. Belden gonna play a role into a lot of these moves and decisions and things like that. So Austin's gonna be like I said, he's gonna be the ultimate decision maker. But having those type of guys in the building with him that understands this process and understands the landscape of what college football is going, I think that's pivotal.
Going back to your point about Brian Kelly getting inserted into these recruiting conversations, you made a good point, because high school, yeah, you do got a few years. Transfer portal, dog, you got a few weeks. Like, we keep talking to these coaches, talking about it being speed dating, talking about it being a revolving door, and then not to mention that's the time that they got in the portal in general. They got multiple visits they're going on, multiple teams they're talking to, so you get a fraction, a little tiny percentage of that. You can't really be messing around, because the transfer portal is where you get most of your starters. I mean, we're talking about LSU revamping the defense. We got someone in the chat asking us about the offensive line. That got revamped through the transfer portal. I mean, you got Braylon Moore, Josh Thompson, 2 of your 3 starters that have been named alongside Tyree Adams, but 2 to 3 starters that are coming are from the portal. I mean, you have to be able to strike and strike fast. And to answer his question in the chat, he said, should Brad Davis be evaluated if the offensive line's struggling this year? I'm going to say no. I think Brad Davis is a great coach. I think he can make an offensive lineman evolve very quickly. Obviously, we saw Will Campbell, Emory Jones, Carius Kearns already got an opportunity here as well. He's got a lot of talent on that line. We were talking on Wednesday about it. The fact that they can rotate, you were saying, it's a good thing, because you don't want to be stuck to the 5 that you got. Like, this is all we can throw out there. This is all we got. Sorry, guys. We're just going to mix and match. Now he's in a little bit of a spot where the next few years he can mold and get a front 5 that is championship material, championship quality. I wouldn't even put Brad Davis in the hot seat in the same sentence. That's just me, though. G, what you think?
I think when you talk about the offensive line and what you expect from them this year, I think this is more about the scheme more than the development of the offensive line, because you have to put them in the best position possible, and not to put too much pressure on Joe Sloan, but I gotta call a spade a spade. I think if they don't show more creativity in the run game, the offensive line is not going to look as good as they should.
Right.
And that's just what that is. Last year, running inside zone and running the zone read when Nussmeier is never going to keep it on the zone read. I think you spinning your wheels right there. So I would hope that this season Joe Sloan will show some different creative ways on how he plans on running the ball. And I think he will. I think he will. I think him and Brian Kelly sat down over the summer and the off season and said, look, let's attack the defense this way, running the ball. Let's show them some different looks. Let's line up in some different formations and create some gaps where our running backs can get 4 or 5 yards here and there. So I think it's more so about that. So I wouldn't put that all on Brad Davis. It's clear that last year there was a better pass blocking team than they were a run blocking team. So I wouldn't put that on Brad Davis. Now, if you see, your offensive lineman having a bunch of false starts, mental errors, they're missing assignments, things of that nature, I would probably put that on coaching. I would. But a lot of this is going to be determined by how they inserted in this scheme the right way. So that
100%.
remains to be seen.
I agree. It'll be interesting. It's going to be one of the biggest talking points. I mean, we're talking about first quarter. That's going to be the first thing everybody's looking at, the rotation of the offensive line, how they react, and how the offense is moving. Before we hop out of this Austin Thomas segment, though, I want to bring up a couple of interesting things that he said. First things first, they prepared for the NIL rev share transition since January. So whenever it got passed in July, they weren't scrambling, they weren't frantic. They already had some deals approved. They already had some things worked out, if you will, ducks in a row. So they were ahead of the curve, and now you get a competitive advantage with things like this. Then talked about going to the Seahawks front office, creating a process with them, getting them to review the process of just putting a value on a recruit, on a roster spot, on a position, cornerback 1, cornerback 3, quarterback 1, quarterback 4, like whatever the case may be, wherever you fall on this depth chart, they have a value for you. Now it's just a baseline. It can go up. I don't know if it really will go down, but whatever the case may be, it helps you not overspend, because when you get a certain amount of money and you're capped at, let's say, 20.5 million besides external NIL deals, you can't just go willy-nilly throwing bread into, like a washing machine, hoping it all stays in there at this point. And then also he doubled down, speaking about the finances, just saying like that's not the driving factor that LSU brings to the table. At LSU, you got a brand, you got past success, you obviously have the alumni, you got all kind of things, the spotlight, everything's helping them pitch, and the money's just line you up at that point. I mean, yeah, like if you're focused on the money, then I'm sure you're gonna probably have some questions, but all in all, that's not the people that you want to be bringing into LSU anyway. You want the dogs that are ready to play some football, not motivated by the bread, because you hear horror stories about that time and time again. People that are motivated by those things that, I'm not gonna say don't always give you the fulfillment, but like if you out there getting your ass kicked in the SEC game, bro, that $1 million paycheck ain't really gonna help you out that much. G, like you're gonna have to dig deep and be able to push and get that W. But yeah, Austin Thomas, I think he's got a good head on his shoulders, and like you said, he gonna be a good piece of this LSU system. That's why they're gonna be able to succeed. That's
You
my
only
take on it.
you're only good as your team. It's just like a head coach in football. Brian Kelly could be the best coach he want to be, but if he doesn't have good position coaches and good coordinators, he's not going to have a successful program. Same thing in the personnel department with Austin Thomas.
Yep, very professional. Coach O said it himself. That's a future NFL GM right there. Now he's a GM at the college level. Let's talk about the Brian Kelly radio show real quick. He said two things that I found very interesting. First thing, no surprise, he was talking about Mansour Delane being an anchor on that defensive secondary, talking about him being a starting corner. Easy to see why. No surprise, G, since the moment he arrived in Baton Rouge, we were talking about this. This is your guy. It's Mansour and who at this point. He's going to be a lockdown. Got versatility. He's showing it off in camp. I'm talking about picks. I seen him scoop a fumble up and return it 80 yards for a touchdown. He's been all over the place in every single facet. Number 4 is going to be a dog. One of the biggest things, though, that
I thought he had to switch numbers.
Mansour? I've been seeing him in number 4. I don't know.
Yeah, because they're retiring Charles, what is Alexander? They're retiring his number.
Yeah,
So
I remember we talked about he been in
Yeah.
practice with number 4, and we got a roster sheet, and it had it on there. So I don't know.
So I'm wondering, are they waiting till after the season? They gonna put it on the shelf, or
I'm gonna ask that question. I'm glad you brought that up because that slipped over my head. I've been seeing him in 4 this whole offseason. But
yeah, I've been seeing him in 4 too.
So Brian Kelly, G, he put a valuation
And Nick Anderson. Nick Anderson got 4 too.
True. And they both been repping it. I ain't seen him switch yet, so I think it'll probably stay out there. But TBD. Anyway, Brian Kelly was saying they spent $18 million on this team. Now, I don't know if it's true or not. We were messing with Sarkisian about it, so the same logic does apply here. However, I find a couple of things interesting about this. First things first, they're competing with Georgia, competing with Alabama, not Texas, not really A&M, but you're amongst the who's in the SEC. So you're not way behind like you were. This year you caught up, you got into the big fish pond, if you will. But I'm curious about how this plays into revenue share, because everyone hears a salary cap of $20.5 million. Now I did some digging. It's a $20.5 million that you can share from your revenue. External NIL deals do not count towards a salary cap. And that offers or really presents an issue in my eyes with like how you're going to keep this legitimate, like how you're going to stop teams from overpaying, from overspending, from being the highest bidder. And I know in short, you probably won't, but like everybody was thinking this is going to be when NIL started to come together and make sense and have guidelines. And then I read things like this and now I'm getting confused, G. Like, do you think that this problem will ever get fixed? Do you think it's a problem? Because I feel like you're still manipulating the salary cap, but maybe I'm not understanding it all the way.
It's like I said when they first came out with the whole salary cap rule that's supposed to be implemented soon, bro. If walk-ons wants to give Garrett Nussmeier $8,000 a month, that doesn't go toward the salary cap. If Gordon McKernan says I want to give Barry and Brown $6,000 a month and make it part of the G team, that doesn't go toward the salary cap. So this is going to be manipulated on so many different levels. You know how many businesses and Fortune 500 companies that the University of Texas, the University of Florida, the University of Miami have with people, bro. This is
Everyone.
that's what that's going to be. So, but I think what you're going to see is they're gonna have to come up with some guidelines where, and I think I seen something about this in the summertime where if you do broker a deal outside of what the school is giving you, you have to like submit it or something like that, and it has to be
Through a
approved.
clearinghouse. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm gonna tell you right now, bro, people are gonna get around it. It's gonna be just like before the NIL era when guys was getting paid under the table and nobody was, well, I ain't gonna say nobody knew about it. Well, you couldn't find a paper trail for a lot of these
Get you a
kids.
McDonald's bag.
Yeah, you're gonna have the briefcases in the back of the trunks. Like it's going people gonna manipulate this, bro. So that's all that's gonna happen. Now, I appreciate them trying to put some guidelines in place and get some red tape with this. But for anybody that thinks that that's the end all be all and people are gonna follow this salary cap, you sadly mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's just a part of the game. Everybody's got to play it. Everybody's looking for an advantage. And I feel like it's no different to the NFL level too, because you can't really get around it as much. But we see them do the whole front loading thing, or no, excuse me, back loading the contract. We're like, all right, we're just gonna keep pushing it down the line, kicking the can down the road. I mean, that's a little bit of salary cap manipulation, but at the college level, you've seen it all over the place.
If
Let me
you
kind of
ain't if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
ain't trying, dog. Hey, I understand it. I
I
understand
know
it.
people don't want to hear that, but it's just the real. It's a
It
reality.
is. It's the business side of it, especially when you're talking about all these damn TV deals. We got uniform patches about to get put on here. I mean, it's gonna get grimy. They gonna
When
get
you have that much pressure on you at a school like LSU, Texas, Miami, bro, a lot of these guys gonna throw their integrity out the window. It just was. I'm not saying I agree with it, but that's just the reality of it, bro.
Mhm. It's a cruel world, Com- competitive world at that. Everybody trying to get that W. Everybody trying to get that ring. Let's talk about the SEC adding that night conference game. Brian Kelly reacted to it. He said he was in support of it. He said he wanted it. This is why he came to LSU to play the best of the best. He was talking about it, preparing them for the postseason. Hopefully they make it. Here's my take on it. So if you didn't hear about it, Greg Sankey came out and confirmed that the SEC will make their teams play a ninth conference game, meaning instead of playing SEC teams 8 times, you play them 9 times. You'll get 3 teams on a permanent rotation. So 3 of your traditional rivalries will stay the same, and you'll get them every year. Then the other 6 games, it'll be a constant rotation. So, this is the interesting part. In 2 years, you will have played everyone in the SEC. And there's teams that have yet to play in the SEC, especially with the SEC expansion. But now you're going to be taking trips across the conference within a 4-year span. You're going to have played in every single stadium. And it's not me misspeaking. They're going to make this thing as competitive as it can get and wide open. Then Sankey's saying that you have to add a Power 4 non-conference game that is it's deemed high quality. You can't go add a bottom of the barrel opponent. You got to add somebody that's quite frankly a playoff caliber team. Now, a lot of people are confused on why they do this. I'll start with the less obvious reason. Well, this might be the more obvious reason. My bad. It's the money. It's the money. Ticket sales, TV deals. That's the obvious reason. Less obvious. Brian Kelly alluded to this as well. College football playoff is changing the criteria. Strength of schedule is getting taken into account more than it has. And some people are going to be upset. Some people are going to be happy. I'm of the group of thought that the SEC has the toughest strength of schedule. This is going to 100% confirm it. Now you're not going to be able to deny 4 to 5 SEC teams a playoff opportunity because they got 2 losses or 3 losses or whatever the hell may be. My last take on this, 3 losses in the SEC is better than oh shit, I'm about to say something controversial. Let me rephrase it, G. 4 losses in the SEC, in my eyes, quite frankly, could be better than 2 losses in a Big Ten. It depends on who the 2 losses are from. If it's Penn State and Oregon, all right, let me watch my mouth. But like, if you're losing to Indiana, God bless. I'm not trying to throw no shade. I'm just saying that's not a quality opponent, bro. Not in my opinion. Not in my eyes. I think that the SEC has a lot more teams that are going to make you sweat. And when you put in that gauntlet where you're playing 10 schools that are high quality and you only got 2 other games that are just bleh, hey, bro, I'm not. I don't see the other argument anymore. How the SEC is not the toughest conference, but I'm sure people will make one.
I have to beg the differ on this, man. So if Michigan loses week 2 to Indiana,
All right.
but they run the table the rest of the season and beat all the quality opponents in the Big Ten, do you hold that against them?
I
What if
mean,
they
if they got
got
one loss, no.
what if they got better as the season went on? What if they had a couple injuries on the offensive line or at the receiver position that probably played a factor into them losing that game in Indiana? That's and I say it all to say this. It should be on a case by case basis. And I've been saying this when you talk about the playoffs and who you talking about getting in. Just because you're in the SEC and you're supposed to have a good team, if you got 3 or 4 losses, that shouldn't automatically put you in the playoff, right?
No.
It has to go off of strength of schedule for sure. It has to be a factor. You have to look at the eye test, right? Like I think that's something that we lose sight of. Sometimes like it doesn't take a damn expert to look at certain teams and say, okay, I know I'm just talking hypotheticals right now. I know Texas is better than
SMU.
Kansas State.
Yeah.
We just based off of all the games I've watched this year from both opponents, I know Texas is better. Now, the record's got to be somewhat close for you to make an argument. Like they can't beat Texas got 4 losses and Kansas State got 1, and you sitting there talking about Texas better than Kansas State, regardless of they're in the SEC or not. I'm talking about when you got those situations like where it's a 3 loss team versus a 2 loss team, or versus it's 2 teams got 3 losses, and we talking about, oh well, they should get in because they're in the SEC. I just disagree with that. I just
Yeah,
disagree with
I
that.
see where you're coming from in that regard. I don't think. All right, I'm gonna say this. You were saying it's a case by case basis. I think it will be. I think this, quite frankly, kind of helps it because it's going to be a case by case basis in a sense where if they lost 2 opponents that are competitive, obviously it can't be blown out. I ain't talking about you getting 50 balled and then that loss is going to be ignored. Yeah, things like that are going to stick.
What if their
Injuries.
quarterback? What if their quarterback was out for that game?
I was about to say injuries are going to probably be taken
You
into
gotta,
account,
you gotta, you
but
gotta put all that
I
into play.
I do think if the college football playoff is looking at the SEC and saying, okay, if you add this conference game, we're not going to penalize you for having, let's say, a 3-loss team. If they're going to say that and they're going to actually look at the schedules, like you're saying, they're going to actually look at how tough these games are, actually look at who you're playing, then I do think the SEC is in a situation where, quite frankly, they're going to get rewarded heavily. So to your point, you don't need to automatically put them in because they're in the SEC. I think this is, if anything, them leaning towards the 5+11 model, which would be the top 5 highest conference champions, then 11 at large. They're probably saying, all right, bet if you're going to give me 11 opportunities, well,
So if you
theoretically,
got
I'm only
11
going to get one.
opportunities, more often than not, from what we've seen, the product that the SEC has put out on the field the last decade, they should get at least 4 to 5 teams out of that 11 out of the at larges. They should.
It'll shake up, especially if they do
They
the strength of
should.
schedule criteria, because now
They
it's
should.
in your favor.
Because 5 teams gonna be in the top 25 every year.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that's gonna be. And out of them 5, 3 of them gonna be in the top 15. Maybe 4.
Yeah, I think this is it's gonna prevent, because in my eyes, the way that I looked at this prevents that automatic qualifying stuff. Just because now they're like, all right, cool. We don't want the Big Ten probably wants the automatic qualifying because they might be trimmed a little bit in terms of not getting 4 teams every single season. But the SEC's beating their chest like shit. I think we could do it. And then I think this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna play
Right.
quality opponents, win, get it done. Sankey got a plan, but I don't know how it's gonna plan out. I don't know. That's just my take on it whenever I saw it. Let's slide into these week 0 picks. Time to put my thinking cap on. Get your Nostradamus crystal ball in front of you. We got to get a fan some locks, bro. We can't start off the season. Can't start off shitty, bro. Let's start off with the biggest game. Number 17, Kansas State versus number 22, Iowa State. Live from Dublin, Ireland. This is the first top 25 game to open the college football season since 2002. 23 years. Games this far away, though, I ain't a big fan of them. I don't know why. I'm scared of making the team travel that far. I don't like the environment, but let's put that aside. Let's put that aside for now. Both teams have returning quarterbacks. That's big. Rocco Beck for Iowa State, Avery Johnson for Kansas State. I do think it'll be a close game. A lot of public money on Iowa State. The spread is 3, so they're taking Iowa State +3. Kansas State is favored. The money line is -155. Iowa State was in the Big 12 title last season, so they're a pretty competitive team. They lost their number 1 and number 2 wide receiver to the NFL draft. Here's the thing about Kansas State, and me and you talked about this before. We're talking about CFB. We're talking about teams that are a pain in the ass to play against, and Dylan Edwards is at the top of the list. Dylan Edwards, 7 yards per carry last season. Bowl game was 195 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. He's the X factor. He can make Avery Johnson's job a lot easier. I'm going to lean Kansas State money line right here in Dublin, number 17, knocking off number 22. But like I said, it's going to be a good-ass game. I ain't going to lie to you.
Yeah, I'm going with Kansas State too. I'm a fan of Avery Johnson. I think he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country. I like their roster. Followed Dylan Edwards when he was at Colorado with Coach Prime. So I think he's going to have a really, really good weekend.
Dylan Edwards is insane, bro. Absolutely insane. UNLV and Idaho State. All right, so this is from Las Vegas. Dan Mullen's first game since his stint with Florida in 2021. He did some media, took a little bit of a break. Now he's here with the Rebels. I don't like this factor in the game. I think the Rebels win. I'll profess with this. They're like -6,000 on the money line. So if you touch that, you need help. You need serious help. They're playing both quarterbacks in the game, though. That's weird to me. Michigan transfer Alex Orji will get in. Virginia transfer Anthony Colanandra will get in. My worry is that the offense doesn't get into a rhythm. They're switching guys. They don't know who their guy is. I could be overlooking the UNLV team as a whole with this worry. Idaho State's replacing a whole defensive line. They got a lot of questions on that side in their own. The spread's at -26, though, and that's way too damn high. Bro, that's 4 touchdowns. They're talking about them beating them by 4 touchdowns. No, thank you. I ain't touching it. Total's at 63. I'm going to say go under because they could literally win 50-10 and cover the under. I was looking at Idaho State's games last season, and when they're playing teams in their conference or lower teams, they're doing all right. They're scoring 20-30, but I mean, bro, when they're playing somebody actually worth it, they're barely scratching 15 together. I'm going to lean under. I think Dan Mullen can put it together, but I think that they do have question marks we're not addressing here with 2 quarterbacks playing. What John Madden say, G, if you got 2, you don't got 1?
You got to remember, Dan Mullen has a history of playing 2 quarterbacks like he did at Florida when he won 2 national championships with Chris Lee and Tim Tebow. So this is not going to be anything that's unfamiliar for him. Alex Orji, I think he's going to do really, really well in Dan Mullen's system versus how he looked at the University of Michigan. I could see him bringing a different element to Dan Mullen's offense versus the other quarterback that came from Virginia. So I expect him to do really, really good. He got some other good kids in the portal. LaTerrence Welch, Louisiana kid that was at Arizona State last year playing corner. Me and him talked recently. He thinks the roster is really, really good. I think they cover the spread.
They got a lot of turnaround. So, I mean, that was one of the things that I was looking at. But you're thinking, I want to ask you about the quarterback comment first. Is this going to be something that happens all season, or is this still a battle playing out in front
Nah,
of them?
I think he does 2 quarter because they're 2 different type of quarterbacks. So I think he uses both of them all season, and that's hard to game plan for.
Yeah, it is. I mean, shit. LSU ran into that with Marcel Reed and A&M. It's almost impossible to game plan for. That's interesting. I didn't consider that. I was thinking that if you don't name the guy and have the consistency, that it's kind of like running around with
unless one of them just piss
Yeah.
down their leg and just go out there and shit the bed, he gonna run a 2 quarterback season probably the whole year.
And this is a good team to do it against.
Yeah.
I mean, it ain't the toughest team in the entire schedule. All right, so you got the spread -26. I'd be sweating. I don't know. Let's see. I'm right under 63. I'll stay put on that. I think UNLV wins. I'm just, man, I don't want to watch it to -26. It's gonna make me feel like I'm in a sauna, big dog. Kansas versus Fresno State. Last game on the slate, live in the newly renovated Jayhawk Stadium. They threw some M's into that thing. The crowd gonna be rocking. Yeah, it's a basketball school, G, but they excited for football season. We'll give them some credit. -12 on the spread. Fresno lost 3/4 of their offensive production. That's a lot. Lost 8 starters on defense once again. Hell of a lot. Brought in a whole new coaching staff. Question mark, question mark, question mark. I'll give you an interesting unorthodox pick. Kansas is -12 for the full game, and I think they cover that. So I'll advocate for that one. But my real lock for you, first half, Kansas -7. Nice, clean cut, simple. Get ahead by a touchdown. Go to halftime, drink some Gatorade, get some orange slices, and then you can come out and do what you got to do, and you ain't got to worry. That's what I think the lock is. What you thinking? How you feel?
Yeah, I got Kansas with the spread. I think the environment gonna be rolling. Uh, I forget the head coach name at Kansas. He's been doing a great job since he's taken over. He has kind of made them pretty relevant over the last couple of years. So I think they cover that spread.
Lance Leopold, that's their head coach. Lance Leopold. He was at Wisconsin. No, he's over here at Kansas repping. Hey, bro, that's our picks for today. So Kansas -7 first half, under 63 UNLV. G says -26. -26, you gonna know real quick if it's hitting or if it's not. It probably is gonna hit. I'm just scared, bro. I don't hang nothing like that. I don't got the oomph for it right now. Week 0, I can't damage my record yet. I'm trying to stay 3-0. So next week, whenever I pick LSU Clemson, everybody's actually listening. What's the biggest underdog game y'all have? Brother, every pick that I just listed was -155 or like -110. The biggest underdog game, I don't have an underdog game. I got Kansas State winning. The only thing I could tell you, I don't know, bro. I don't want to lead you astray. If you odds chasing, if you're chasing that plus, you're gonna find yourself in a tough spot. Gotta stick with the winners. Gotta pass the eye test, G. About to hop out of here. Y'all enjoy y'all weekend. College football, week 0. Enjoy it, because this is the only Saturday you're gonna have for a long time where you're not nervous, wondering if LSU's going to win. Your emotions are not going to be on a roller coaster this weekend. You better soak it up, because when we go to Clemson next week, gonna be wartime. G, gonna be strapping it up.
Can't wait.
It'll be interesting. I hit that thumbs up. We're hopping out of here. Live Monday at 1:00 again. This has been the Verdin Verdict. I'm your guy Jacob Verdin. Got G Sports in the cut. Appreciate y'all time.